In this video, we will be going over Lesson 11, Strategies for Multiplication and Division. Some of the questions in this lesson are a little bit challenging just because of the way that they're formatted, but don't worry, we have this video. I will walk you through the questions. Our first question goes, simplify the following expression. We have this 102 divided by -6, and then I have two blanks. I need to try and figure out what the blanks represent. So it says select two answers, one for blank 1 and then one for blank 2. Well, it looks like blank 2 is going to be our final answer based off of these answer choices, and it looks like blank 1 is going to be the step in the middle that we take to get to our final answer. Now, anytime that you have a fraction like we have up here, okay, if you want to break it into two smaller fractions, that might make it a little bit easier for you to solve it without a calculator. You always want to split it up and then add them together. Okay, so we are splitting this main fraction up here, and we are going to take this fraction and break it into two smaller fractions and add them together. And the reason why we're adding them is because if you look at all of these answer choices, like this one here, and this one here, none of those have addition. And if I were to multiply them together or solve what I have here, I would not get the same fraction that I have up here. So addition is crucial here, which means that the only right answer we can pick for blank 1 is the one that has addition. Knowing that we have our blank 1 step, we are going to solve these two fractions to get to our final answer for blank 2. 60 divided by -6 is going to give me -10. 42 divided by -6 is going to give me -7. When I add these together, -10 plus -7 gets me -17. And so for this one, you could also kind of work backwards a little bit, and don't forget that you can always double check your answer by typing it into a calculator. If you have any type of problem and you think you can do it with a calculator, try it. This is the one that you'll always see me using, desmos.com/scientific. I would use this one. Next question says, Ashish wants to simplify 2.8 plus 7.2 times 4.4. He decides to apply the distributive property and rewrites the expression 12.32 plus 31.68. He takes the sum and gets 44. Did Ashish work correctly? How do you know? Well, let's have us solve this problem just to see if we get the same answer as Ashish. Okay, so he has 2.8 plus 7.2, and this is being multiplied by 4.4. Remember that with distribution, we are going to multiply everything inside by that 4.4. 2.8 times 4.4. My plus sign comes down. 7.2 times 4.4. Now here I'm going to bring back that calculator to help us with this multiplication so we can get through this problem a little bit quicker, and also to make sure that we don't mess up any of our decimal places, because that is a mistake that can happen very easily. And we get 12.32 plus 31.68. And since we're here, I'm going to add these together right now. And I also get 44. So Ashish we got 12.32 plus 31.8. When we added them together, we got 44. This is the same exact answer that Ashish got, so Ashish is correct. He correctly applied the distributive property and simplified the expression, so good job. Our next question. This one is a lot to take in, so let's break it down into some smaller steps. So Tomas is doing the following work to simplify an expression. So the work over here on the left, this is what we're looking at. That is what Tomas did to solve his expression. Part A wants us to identify what mistake Tomas made when he was doing his work. Okay, so let's look here. This first step, what we have here is essentially 1 3/8 divided by 3/8. So what he did is copy.flip, or KFC. Some of you might know this as KFC, which is keep, change, flip, where you keep your first fraction, you flip your sign, so instead of division, we now have multiplication, and then he changed the center, and then you have to do the reciprocal or the opposite of the fraction on the end here, which is what he did. So his first line is good. Let's see what he did for his second line. His second line, it looks like he added a set of parentheses around this fraction here. Nothing else changed. Okay, so that's not that's still looking good. Then he takes this 1 3/8 and times 1/8, and he takes this 3/8 that's attached to this 1 here, and he moves it and attaches it to this 8/3. This right here is where he makes his mistake. So Tomas made a mistake on line 3, and he incorrectly applied the associative. Remember, associative property is moving around your parentheses. When we have a fraction like we have here, this 1 3/8, they're almost like a couple. You can't split them apart and move them around and just make them multiply to different fractions. That's not how that works. Mixed numbers always need to stay together. So then part B wants to know, if he doesn't make that mistake, what should be the correct answer? And for this one, I am going to type this into a calculator. And what I'm typing into a calculator is this step up here. Okay, so that step up there is what I'm going to type into my calculator. So 1 3/8 times 8/3. Oops. Why isn't it letting me backspace anywhere? It's weird. Let me just retype it. What is going on? Maybe it is my keyboard that's being weird. This way works though. There we go. So I get 3.6 repeating. So if I convert this to a fraction, I see I have a 3 in my denominator and an 11 in my numerator. Okay, so if I do 11 divided by 3, it's definitely my keyboard, which I don't know why it's doing that. Oh well. 11/3 goes into 3 times. 3 minus 11 is going to, 9 minus 11 is going to be 2, so 3. What is going on with my keyboard today? 3 2/3 is going to be the correct answer here. That is what Tomas should be getting. So associative property for line 3, and then 3 2/3. Okay, our next one, we want to know which expression has the greatest value. For this one, I would 10 out of 10 recommend typing all these into a calculator and seeing what you get. Now with these ones, anytime you type anything into a calculator, it needs to look exactly the same as the problem that you are typing in. If it does not, the calculator will not compute it correctly. So let's start with A. I have this fraction 2/5, parenthesis, 3/5 plus 6, close parenthesis. Okay. For B, I'm going to hit this fraction button first so I can do 3 1/2 up top. 3 1/3. And then in the denominator, I can do 1 1/3. And I'm subtracting that from 2/3. So this weird fraction, notice how the entire setup looks all the same as this, right? My two fractions in my denominator are still in my denominator. There's that subtraction sign in the middle. 3 1/3 is up top. Everything looks the same. You need to make sure that yours also look the same when you are typing this in. Any little difference could make a big change in your answer. And then our last one, -8 minus 2, and then a 0.2 at the end. Looking at these different answer choices, it looks like this 5 is the biggest number. It has the greatest value. both of those are only 2 point and then decimals. So B here is going to be our final answer. B has the greatest value of 5. All right, next question says that an arcade is open for 10 hours daily. The arcade keeps 4 attendants on duty at all times. Each attendant's shift is 5.25 hours long. Which statement best explains how many total shifts are scheduled for the arcade each day? Okay, well, let's think about it. The arcade is open for a total of how many hours? How many hours is this arcade open for? Hopefully you're going 10.5, right? It says right up here that the arcade is open for 10.5 hours a day. And the next question I want to know is, well, how long are each shift? How long am I going to be on shift for if I work at this arcade? And at the very end, it says each attendance shift is 5.25 hours long. So knowing that the arcade's open for 10.5 hours and each shift is 5.25 hours long, if I were to divide those, I would get 2, which means that there are 2 time shifts each day. Okay. Since there are 4 attendants though, if there's only 2 different time shifts, say a morning and an afternoon, if there's 4 attendants, how do you think we would split those attendants evenly among those 2 different shifts? Do we want to have all 4 work the morning and none work the afternoon? Do we want to have 3 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon? How would we evenly split those? Well, if I have 4 total, and I have 2 different shifts to pick from, right? I have my morning and my afternoon. Here's 1 attendant, 2 attendants, 3 attendants, 4 attendants. So that means that if we simplify 10.5 over 2, or 5.25, to find that there are 2 time shifts each day, since there are 4 attendants for each of the 2 shifts, oh, I read that wrong. You would multiply 4 times 2 to get the 8 shifts. I accidentally read this part wrong. I thought that said there are 4 total, not there are 4 attendants at all times. See, read your questions carefully. Go back and reread them. However, our first step is still the same. We still figured out that there are 2 shifts, right? So say there's this morning shift and then the afternoon shift still. If there's 4 attendants on each one, if I add all those up, I would get a total of 8 attendants. For every acre of lettuce harvested from Sabre Farms, 19 of it is unsellable due to spoilage or other damage. This week, Sabre Farms harvested 18 acres of lettuce. Part A wants to know, how can you represent the amount of sellable lettuce as a mathematical expression? And it gives us a hint. It says the hint is to think about the amount of spoiled lettuce, then consider the total harvest. Okay. 19 of this harvest is unsellable, 19 acres, and 18 total acres were able to be harvested. Okay, so 19 not harvestable, 18 is harvestable. We want to know what's the amount of sellable lettuce. Okay, well, if we think about it, you know what? I just realized I was actually reading this problem incorrectly. It says that 19 of the acres are unsellable due to spoilage or other damage, but this week the total harvest was 18 acres. So it's not that there was 18 acres available. It is that 18 acres were harvested this week, and this 19 should be 1 over 9. I'm sorry, that was a typo on my end. I forgot to change that to a fraction. So 1/9 of the spoilage is not sellable because it's spoiled of every single harvest. This makes much more sense now looking at the answers. So there's 18 total acres of lettuce. Think about if something is spoiling, and you can't sell it, that means you're going to be able to sell less than 18, right? If I have 18 total acres, but a ninth of it is spoiling, that means I'm taking 18 away. So since I'm taking 1/9 of those unsellable lettuce away, I'm going to be talking about subtraction here. So I am either going to be using A or 18 minus 9, or 18 minus this 18 times 1/9. Now, this answer here is correct with this times 1/9, and this is why. In math, whenever you see a multiplication sign, that is another way of using the word of. Okay, so this is saying I have 18 total acres, and I need to take away whatever 1/9 of those acres that are spoiled is. So if I were to do 18 times 1/9, that would give me how many acres I'm not able to sell. And let's figure that out. Remember, with multiplication, you multiply straight across the top, straight across the bottom. So if I were to do 18 minus 2, I get 16. So 16 total acres are going to be able to be sold this week. Alrighty, that is it for lesson 11. Like I said, it is definitely a tricky one, so make sure that you use this video and go back if you accidentally missed any of them. If you have other questions, please let me know.